What the fuck is up, everybody, and welcome to another segment of Tony's Corner. So, what are we talking about today? We're going to be talking about everybody's favorite movie. Well, not mine, but it could be yours. Friday the 13th from 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham and written by Victor Miller. The only reason I bring those two names up is because they play kind of a pivotal role in the story that we're about to tell. Now, this is a film that I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm really not a big fan of. I love the franchise, but this film, I think it's fair to say at this point, the first one's not a good movie. I don't know, man. Let's dive into it. We'll go from there. I just finished watching it for the 800th time in my entire life. So, nothing new, but let's just jump into it. So, something to mention about Friday the 13th, pure and simple. If you haven't quite figured it out, we know the twist ending. We'll get into that. But I have to bring up some of that to talk about these mentions. It's the only way this is going to work. First off, Sean S. Cunningham saw the success of Halloween, John Carpenter's film, and basically wanted to replicate it. He wanted to rip off of that. He's been very honest about that. He's said that in a lot of interviews. He's been very, very vocal about the fact that they wanted to copycat Halloween. So they figured, why not make a movie about someone stalking kids in the woods? Similar concept, POV, and basically just give it some catchy title. They couldn't figure out what to call it, so he said Friday the 13th because it just sounds so cool. So yeah, now we have Friday the 13th for that reason. But moving forward, Victor Miller was the writer of the script, and that's kind of what he's known for, as far as I'm concerned. I didn't dive into a lot of his history, but I do know that Victor Miller is kind of the reason we're having issues with the Friday the 13th franchise. He is very adamant about the fact that he does not like that the killer is Jason and not his mother, which is how it was intended to be. I'm sure a lot of the nerds out there that know their history and do their research, they know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that right now Friday the 13th is in the position that it's in because of Victor Miller, because of a lot of lawsuits that are going on between him and the studios, so on and so forth. But now that we got those out of the way, why don't we talk about what this movie really is, aside from a ripoff of Halloween? So, just a short little synopsis for you. It follows a group of teen camp counselors who are murdered one by one by an unknown killer. And of course, this is all happening while they're trying to make the attempt of reopening a summer camp that had a dark past. So, there is your synopsis. Let's get into the positives. There are some positives with this movie. One of them for me is the story it's decent. There is a little bit of a story. It plays on the idea of a local boogeyman legend, if you will, because we get characters that bring up the fact that, Jason was a boy that drowned. Camp counselors weren't paying attention. So, then we got the character of Ralph, the old man, who brings up, you're all going to die, you're going to be murdered, or you have a terrible impression, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, because of that, I do like that they kind of they bring up the name Jason. Well, specifically Pamela Voorhees, the mother, does. But they play on that local boogeyman. Jason's a character, even though he doesn't appear in this film. Well, depending on who you ask, I guess. I like that, though. I like that it's kind of similar to what Halloween was doing, because you can argue these are two different films. Halloween didn't have the twist that Friday the 13th has at the end. But they both play on this idea of a local boogeyman or, killer, escaped killer, if you will. Like I said, different in Friday the 13th, but they're similar in that way. For me, I like the twist murder that we get to open with Annie. So I would sit here and say to you this movie has the Scream effect, but that would be incorrect. You would have to say Scream has the Friday the 13th effect. So Annie is pretty much our main character at the beginning of the film, right after two counselors are murdered. Had to spoil that one for you, but that's a pretty cool opening for this movie. Annie's our main character. She's kind of backpacking, trying to basically get to the camp where she's going to be working, and she gets picked up by this one guy who's a weird motherfucker, kind of telling her to avoid the area, calling it Camp Blood and this and that. Well, not calling it Camp Blood, but I'm over-exaggerating the setting here and how it opens up for a young Annie. Annie ends up leaving him just to go and hitch a ride with another person who is, again, an unknown assailant who slashes her throat after chasing her, and it's over from there for Annie. So she's not our main character like we thought she was. But I like that. I kind of like how they do that in movies. Not all movies. I was told, and I'm not trying to spoil this for anybody, so my apologies if I do. I was told a certain someone dies 30 minutes into Gladiator 2, and now I want to see it for that reason. I'm just curious to see if it works, if it plays out the way it sounds like it could. But I like this setup. I like when we get a movie where we're introduced to this character for like 10 to 15 minutes, in some cases 30 minutes. You think they're the main character, and then they just fucking die, and then other characters carry it on. So, like, I do like that. This is something that this has going for it as a movie. I do like the plot twist. Jason's mom, Pamela, is the killer, which is funny because you could tell people that like really watch their movies and people that know about movies that exist. And what I mean by that is my wife knows who Jason Voorhees is. She knows what Friday the 13th is. She's heard me and other people before me talk about it ad nauseum. Like, this is something that everybody knows what Friday the 13th is. However, to a newcomer or somebody that's never seen one of these movies all the way through its entirety, even she did not know that Pamela Voorhees was the killer. She looks at me like, wait a minute, what? And I tell her, exactly. In some weird way, we got caught up with this idea of Jason being the killer, which happens in part 2. And then part 3, he dons the infamous hockey mask. And it's basically Jason from there. Well, except for one specific movie. But when I bring that up to her, she's like, that is such an odd turning point. And I was like, what's really odd is the fact that it became so big that people like me now kind of look at the first Friday the 13th as like a bastardized version of the franchise. But there's a lot of people that do like it too. And I'm not shitting on them. I totally understand if you like this movie. I'm one of those that I really wonder what would happen to this film if we never got any sequels. Would it have stood the test of time? Because a lot of people really do like this movie. This movie's considered one of the greatest by historians, movie nerds. But me personally, man, as time has gone on, I've never been shy about the fact that I really don't like this movie in comparison to some of the other ones, especially some of the other ones. But nobody knows that. Nobody, at least like a person that's never seen the first film, they're expecting Jason because that's the legacy that we know. Probably why Victor Miller is upset. But I like the plot twist. You get to the end and you find out that Pamela is the mother of Jason, the little boy that drowned because the counselors weren't paying attention. They were too busy fucking. And she's back. She wants revenge. So, I mean, I like that. I think that that's what makes this movie, because otherwise this movie is a boring ass movie. I will say this too. I don't know the exact name of the person, but the music score, the infamous like, dude, that's in every one of these movies. Everyone knows that sound. You have to run across the world and you can barely find someone that doesn't know what that means. That's how famous it is. And the music all throughout, not just that, the music all throughout though is incredible. I like the music score. That's the fucked up part about this movie. Movie's not really that great. I think it's boring, but it's got a fucking kick-ass music score, dude. And if it wasn't for that music score, we wouldn't have the rest of what we have in the franchise. I mean, I'd argue that one little that fucking people think it's haha, and I'm not diving into that. We're not diving into it. But I will say this. That little line throughout the film, throughout that score, it's awesome. It gives a really good approach. I think it does feed into the intensity that this movie can give you. The kills, dude. As much as I'm sitting here telling you this is a boring film, the kills are pretty fucking cool. I like the kills, and especially for, an early 80s film. Again, we're talking about the fact that this is a movie that it was made off of a budget of like $550,000, if I'm not mistaken. And it like made, let me check my notes. I know you shouldn't say that when you're doing one of these, but sometimes you got to write some notes down. Otherwise, you're going to be talking out your ass. I'm known for doing that a lot on the Great Girth podcast, but it's 59.8 million worldwide. All right. So as much as I'm like, shitting on it, the fact of the matter is it's better in comparison to what it has to offer. Okay. So this is a movie that, like I said, 2-3 times now, it was meant to be a replicant of Halloween. The cool thing though, is the kills are better. And for the shoestring budget that it has, and then you learn about Tom Savini and the role he played and all this stuff, the makeup effects, oh my god, dude, it only makes sense. But I think the kills in this are pretty good, for what it's worth. Again, for the early 80s, for a film that came out right after the success of another film that didn't have the gore and the violence, at least to this level, it's pretty fucking kick-ass. It's something to stick around for, in my opinion. Because otherwise, there's nothing else this movie has to offer. If there's one kill I think that's definitely worth mentioning, it's probably the Kevin Bacon kill. He's smoking a joint, fucking hand comes over. He's got that, I don't know what that is. It's a piece of iron from a fence, if I'm not mistaken, and he's able to get it right through the mattress and right through his neck. If you do your research and you go on YouTube and you look at how Tom Savini and his apprentice had done that, it's pretty kick-ass. Like, it's interesting, you know what I mean? Like, you can tell there was definitely a time where we didn't have the computer usage that we have now for that stuff. And I'm a practical effects guy. I've always been that way. That's something that I deeply enjoy. Kevin Bacon, that's another positive. That's how bad this movie is, though, dude. Like, there's really, again, just besides the kills, besides like the folk tale that you hear all the time throughout the film, and besides the awesome music, there's really not much else to this movie. I think what does kill this movie is not having the hockey mask. But one could make the argument it wasn't supposed to be that way. So, sequelitis definitely has long-lasting effects. I think, damn, I just ran through my positives. That was pretty much all the positives I had for this film. Fuck it. It's time to go into the negatives. Boring ass movie. Like I just said, boring fucking movie, dude. These characters are very cardboard. You know nothing about them. I mean, aside from the fact that they're all just wanting to fuck, which, hey, very telling of the time, right? It's an 80s film. This is right around the era that we're starting to get the rise of slasher films where kids aren't getting high and fucking, they're getting murdered for both. But it has nothing to offer. And you can make this argument for every other film. But I don't know, man. Have you guys ever seen Jason Lives? Have you guys ever seen The New Blood? Yes, I understand that the argument behind those is the simple fact that, like, oh yeah, these are all characters that are disposable and they have stupid storylines. I'd rather the stupid storyline and some sort of character background than this bullshit. I don't know anything about these characters. Our only, like, real knowledge is of our main character, and she is boring in my opinion. She is the final girl. She ends up being the one that beheads Pamela Voorhees and fucking saves the day, makes it out alive. But she's boring. There is nothing about her that interests me. There is nothing about her and her counselor boss's relationship that's not quite secretive that interests me. I mean, I don't even know why they brush upon that. I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that they're trying to set up that, she's a strong girl. She can make decisions for her own. She's well aware of the fact that what this man is doing is wrong by hitting on her and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I do not care about her character. There are no other characters in this film to care about. In fact, even our beloved Annie from the very beginning, she's not really something to care about either. That's the unfortunate truth. I think if there's any character in this film that you really give two fucks about, it's probably the snake that gets brutally murdered in the kitchen. Just kidding. That was a real snake, by the way. I know, that's something that everyone knows now, if you haven't quite figured that out. It's one of the few times that a snake was actually killed on screen. But yeah, the cardboard characters, it drives me nuts. There's like little to no dialogue in this film, unless we're talking about Jason Voorhees fucking and more fucking. There's not really much dialogue in this film. I'd say the most dialogue, at least the one that like really sticks out, is the old man. I forget his fucking name. So he is in the second one too. Mind you, he dies in the second one, which is like, what the fuck? We won't dive into the entire future of this franchise, but let me just say this. The shock ending is cool, right? Like how we get our main character takes the machete, which is randomly on the beach, and not a beach, but the beach front of this lake, and she's able to wield it and cry. And Pamela Voorhees, nightmare's over, right? That's where that film should have ended. But instead, we get this like, haha, gotcha moment where she's in the fucking canoe, and I've talked about this on one of my other reviews. She's in the canoe, running her hand through the water, and then a young, deformed Jason pops up, comes out at her, and she wakes up in the hospital. She's asking the police, where's the boy? And they're like, what boy? There was no boy. And she's like, then he's still down there. And like, I don't know what that had to do. I don't know if that was supposed to solidify the fact that, no, Jason is dead. He's long gone. But considering that he wasn't the killer, why does that matter? Again, it's a good approach. It's a good technique. I've talked to so many folks, not just people my age, but younger that have seen this film as well as older. And a lot of them, they really love that ending. They think it's effective. They think it's, hey, it's what made the movie. It's what made something for everyone to talk about. Like, do you remember that movie where they had that ending? Oh my God, that was crazy. It's a pop culture thing, it's a big reference. But I've always found it to be such a useless ending. I just never understood it, dude. And again, even as a kid, I really wasn't a fan of this movie. I remember watching it with my stepdad. I think it was 7 or 8. And by then I had already seen like some of the other films with Jason and all that. So yeah, I watched this and was expecting Jason, didn't see him the entire time. Find out it's his mom, and it's like, damn, all right. Like I said, I've heard people make the argument that this probably would have been a good film if it was one and done and that's how it was supposed to be. But I've also heard people that think otherwise. I am one of those that I do wonder, because this again feels like a really, like, it just does not belong in this franchise. But again, if you're team Friday the 13th part 1, you will make the argument that that franchise is not a part of this film. This is a weird one for me too, because I'm the same guy that will tell you, hey, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is amazing, watch it. Doesn't have Michael Myers, I understand that, get over it. This one's hard for me though. This one's difficult, and I think it is because of the fact that what they're doing in this is different than what I'm used to. I was introduced to this franchise well after its peak. I mentioned my age quite a bit to kind of make some sort of sense into what I'm talking about when it comes to viewing these films. I think that age doesn't necessarily matter, but in the context, it does. I'm a kid born in 1992, right? This is pretty much right around the time that these films are dying. There's not much. I think I was born around the time, either before or after, if I'm not mistaken, of Jason Goes to Hell. Terrible film. But this is right around the time these movies are dying. So I'm lucky enough to have a stepdad that lets me watch, part 6, part 7, The New Blood, Takes Manhattan, which is also terrible. I even got to go see Jason X in theaters with my stepdad, which fucking, that was awesome. Like, I couldn't think of any other dad that would do that for their son. So, I mean, fuck yeah, that's cool. I even got to watch Freddy versus Jason with him, not in theaters, but I got to see a lot of these things, but I did not get to see Friday the 13th, the first film, until later in life. So yeah, I'm probably like 9 years old at this point. I'm pretty sure I'm like 9 when I fucking saw this movie. But keep in mind, I had already seen all these other movies, so I'm expecting Jason, and I don't get that. Yeah, that's mistake number one. I hear a lot of people already, before they even appear in the comment section, say like, well, yeah, you should have watched these in order. Like, hey, when you're a kid, you don't recognize that shit. And I think that another reason I have such disdain for it is because, to me, it's really not a Friday the 13th movie. This is just a completely different film. It's a completely different story that, is what created this franchise. I get it. I'm not saying that it's a shitty movie. I'm just saying that this is a lame movie, dude. This is not. I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be. I think that this movie has a cult following because of the fact that it created a franchise that's a freaking monster at this point. I don't think it's like unfair to say that the first one sucks. I've met so many people that while they enjoy it, it's not their number one go-to. Like, I can tell you this right now, my number one favorite Friday the 13th film of all time is I believe it's part 6, Jason Lives. Yeah, because there's final chapter, new beginning. Yeah, I love part 6. That's my hands down my favorite. I actually really love part 7. I know a lot of people aren't exactly fans of it, or as they like to call it, Fry Gay the 13th. I don't know. I think it's cool, but I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I like pretty much all of these movies to some degree, even if they suck. To some degree, I like all these movies. Anyway, getting off topic here. Let's focus on the task at hand. The ending, though, with Jason popping out, the whole haha gotcha, it's over, didn't care for that shit at all. I think if they would have left it where it was, with main character whose name I forgot, just fucking chopping off that head and then surviving the day, I think that would have been fine. And of course, she's unceremoniously killed off in the second one anyway. So another reason I have a hard time caring for this fucking movie. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even call this a decent popcorn flick. To me, this just, don't waste your time. I hate to be that guy, but you really don't need to watch this movie. I mean, I guess you do if you want to watch the second one, but I'm one of those guys, I don't think you need to watch the second one either. Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm Hockey Mask Jason. I like that story. I don't like the Pamela shit. I don't care about the hacky sack. I don't care about any of that. Yeah, I'm going to give this movie, for what it's worth, a negative. No. I'm going to give it like a C minus. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really like doing the whole star ratings like I've been doing. And I had mentioned in the past review that I did that I came up with a system on how I'm going to do this. I did, but I'm starting to second guess myself because it's hard to tell people whether to watch these movies or not because everybody's different. I will tell people to watch a movie that I don't like, but I think it was good. And they're like, the fuck does that mean? It's like, well, I wasn't a fan of it, but it was beautifully shot. I can understand why people liked it. There's nothing wrong with saying that stuff. I'm just simply telling you that don't waste your time. You don't need to watch Friday the 13th. It's not a good movie. Okay. It's not a bad movie. It's not what people have made it out to be. I'm sorry, but I can think of plenty of other movies in this franchise that are better. This movie's not that good. If you're someone that's interested in this, and especially Gen Z, you guys are these kids now that this is from a long, long time ago, way before your time. If you are investing yourself in 80s slasher, you don't need to start with Friday the 13th. You need to start with like part 3 or something else, dude. I'm just not a fan of this movie. I'm sorry. For me, it's going to be a C minus. Friday the 13th. Have you seen it? Did you like it? What do you think? Are you upset with my review on this? Were you expecting me to rant and rave about it? Sorry, just not my cup of tea. This movie sucks. It's okay if you're a Tom Savini fan, if you're I don't even know, dude. See, my opinion of it is changing more and more. Like I said, it's not, I get why people like it. To me, it sucks. There we go. That's the best way to put it. I think that this is a boring ass movie. But thanks, guys, for watching. Please comment below and let me know if there's any movies you want me to check out. And thank you for watching another segment of Tony's Corner.